Hey there, everyone, and welcome to already our second to last episode of Sports Hour of the semester. It just flew by, but we have another good episode coming for you. I'm Kevin Syracuse with Dante Lasting, our NFL analyst, and like always, we'll do the college sports roundup before we get into the NFL. So first, the men's basketball team defeated Vassar 64-56 on Friday, but lost to Nazareth 71-54 on Saturday at the Nazareth tournament. In Friday's win, Chase Johnson had 18 points, Dada Bryant had 17 points and 5 assists, and Tyler Roberts had 15. In Saturday's loss, Bryant had 16 points and Daquan Smith had 14. The men are 2-1 on the young season and are back in action tomorrow night as they are headed to Pennsylvania to take on Waynesboro. The women's basketball team lost both of their games this weekend at the John Carroll tournament, falling to John Carroll 72-39 on Friday and to Capital 77-50 on Saturday. Morgan Davis had 9 points, while Anna Chacha had 5 points and 8 rebounds in Friday's loss. Ray White had 16 points, and Audrey Craffey chipped in with 10 in Saturday's loss. The women return home this Friday to take on Madai. Tip-off is set for 6 p.m. And finally, the hockey team tied with Plattsburgh 1-1 on Friday and lost to Potsdam 1-0 on Saturday. Victor Tracy scored the lone weekend goal for the Blue Devils. They also return home this Friday as Brockport comes to town for a 7 o'clock face-off. So Dante, that's got to be tough when you go to the North Country 10 hours away and you only come away with 1 point, 1 goal.
Definitely, it's really tough, but I think they'll bounce back.
So now switching over to the NFL now, first thing we have to talk about, probably one of, if not the biggest player of the year, and it wasn't even a football play. It's more like a WWE play, as you can see on the graphic, the Myles Garrett hit. So what are your thoughts about that play?
Yeah, my thoughts are he really didn't have a history of it. He wasn't really a dirty player. He had some late hits, some things here and there, but it wasn't really in his character. He got heated in the moment, and he let the moment take advantage of him, and he did something unforgivable. And as you can see with the whole thing with Mason Rudolph, he just hit him straight in the head with his helmet. It was a late hit, and yeah. And if the helmet was turned around, if it hit him square on the head, we could be talking about his head being cracked wide open, and it could be so much worse than what it was. But I think the indefinite suspension, these last 6 games, and definitely possibly into next year, I think that's the right call.
Yeah, I definitely agree with the rest of the season suspension because that is definitely one of, if not the dirtiest play of all time. Because it's not like, it's hard for me to like rank them because they're all so dirty. Like all the Vontaze Burfict ones where he leans in with his head, because that's, you're going 100% at someone. And those are more bang bang. So this was more intentional. But he wasn't like they weren't going at each other 100% full force, but just because of the intent, it's just so dirty. And to use a helmet as a weapon, that's like they were saying on like SportsCenter, that was like literally assault. He used it as a weapon. He ripped it off and he smashed it down on his head. And like you said, if he used the top of it, the crown, that could have been really serious. Rudolph's lucky that he wasn't injured or anything, because he just got over a concussion a couple weeks ago.
Definitely. It's the past 2 division games versus the Ravens and the Browns have been really tough for him with his knockout hit that he had before versus the Ravens. And he needs to be careful because with the past 2 divisional games that he's gotten hit in the head, and he's gotten hit hard. The last game he got knocked out, and he really has to be careful. I know this really wasn't his fault. It was a big fight, but it's also a big stain on the NFL, because they're celebrating their 100th season, and I'm sure that this is not what they want to be in the storylines.
Now, a lot of people are getting on Rudolph now because everyone knows what Myles Garrett did is wrong. But now people are getting on Rudolph because they're saying, well, he initiated it. He was the one who started pulling Garrett's helmet off first. He kicked him in the groin. He initiated it. Then he ran after Garrett while Garrett had his helmet in his hand. So now people are they're not trying to blame him, but a lot of people are not sticking up for Garrett, but they're looking at both sides now. And to me, this all comes down to Myles Garrett. I mean, Rudolph isn't he wasn't perfect here. He shouldn't have ripped the helmet off. But to me, this all stems back to when Garrett had the initial sack. I mean, they're up 21-7. There's 8 seconds left, so it's not like a touchdown, a Hail Mary is going to win or tie the game or anything. Just back off. Myles Garrett sacked him after he threw the pass and then drove him into the ground. And that's why, Rudolph's just like, all right, get off me. He's, taking the helmet off. Again, it's not right, but to me, Myles Garrett is the main culprit here.
Definitely, and that's why he's been suspended indefinitely. You could see with the other Browns defensive tackle, he was suspended a game for pushing Mason Rudolph.
He should have gotten more than 1 game.
I think so too. I think that he should have gotten at least 2, so he's not there when they play the Steelers again in 2 weeks. I feel like the NFL should have made sure that all 3 players that were involved in that fight weren't at the next game to start anything else.
And then Marquise Pouncey, do you agree with the 3 games for him? Because yes, he was standing up for his teammate, but like he said, he blacked out because he just went so berserk trying to protect him.
Yes.
And he was punching and kicking. I love it because if I'm the quarterback, I want my lineman to do that for me. But at the same time, if you're the NFL, you got to give him something because, you suspend Kareem Hunt all those games for kicking, and if you don't do anything to Pouncey, what does that say?
Definitely, and Myles Garrett was on the ground. He was defending his quarterback, but kicking and punching in the head isn't really, it's not allowed, and I know you were defending your player, but I think it's justified. I think the 3 games are justified.
So that kind of took away from the rest of the game. The Browns took this one 21-7, and they're 4-6, so, they're looking better for the wild card. They can make a little push here, but without their best defender, it's going to be tough. So moving on, the next game from the 1 o'clock set of games, Baltimore and Houston. The Ravens took this one 41-7, and Lamar Jackson is just, he's on beast mode right now.
He really is. I was so shocked with the final score of this game. I really was. I thought it was going to be a close game. I thought it was going to be one of the best games of the year, but it was just so one-sided. The Ravens are just ahead of everybody else. Once they got Lamar Jackson, they really stood up. They really stood out, and you've seen it with their record, with how they played, how they've just put away teams, good teams. They beat the Patriots, and this team can really make a run. They have the pieces, they have the defense, and they have a few tough games coming up, but I think they can be pretty good for the most part, and I think that they can make a run for the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, they just look so good right now. They're 8-2, and they're atop the NFL power rankings, and Lamar Jackson is just, you can't bring him down because everyone wanted to get on Lamar when he came out of college, and even last year, he's a running back playing quarterback. But now people are starting to see how valuable that is because, like he said, I don't like to run. Like I'm a throwing quarterback. So it's just a great dual threat because, yes, he is a pass-first quarterback, and then once that opens up, he takes off to run.
Definitely, and he had 222 yards, 4 touchdowns. The entire team had 263 rushing yards, so they just make different ways to move the ball, and they're doing it week in and week out. One thing I could see, if they do make it in the playoffs, and they'll make it in the playoffs, but if they make it further, I could see a Ravens-49ers rematch Super Bowl. With the way that the 49ers are playing in their style, and the way that the Ravens are playing, kind of a similar style with 2 different quarterbacks. I think that could be an interesting Super Bowl, and I think it's legit. I think it could actually happen.
I never thought about that. That's a good point. But speaking of Super Bowls, a rematch of the Super Bowl from 2 years ago, New England and Philadelphia. This is more of a defensive game. New England took this one 17-10.
Definitely. It was definitely more of an offensive game the last time the 2 teams played, but that's just how the NFL works. You're not the same team when you meet up with a team later in a different season or later in the same season. But yeah, these 2 offenses, the Patriots offense, they're just not clicking. They don't have the same weapons that they had in the past, but they have such a great defense that it makes up for it. With the Eagles, they have the talent. They just aren't producing at the level that they should. And each team had 8 punts in this game. That's how back and forth it was, and you really saw it, and you saw it in the final score, 17-10.
Yeah, the Patriots had to get a little tricky. They had Edelman throw a touchdown.
Yes.
That's how much their offense was struggling. But it's the Patriots, so I'm not worried because they'll be fine.
Definitely. They have the best coach of all time, and
Probably the best quarterback of all time.
Yes, and they know how to win in different ways, so I'm not worried either.
Yeah, so they're 9-1. I was really pulling for the Eagles because if they would have won, the Bills would have been one game back in the AFC East for what it's worth.
That's true, but the Patriots do have a tough schedule coming up. They had it kind of easy in the first half. I think the whole entire AFC East has kind of an easy schedule just based on who they play. But they do have a tough couple games coming up, so we'll really see what the Patriots are made of.
Well, one of those teams that Buffalo and New England will both be playing, Dallas, they beat Detroit 35-27. This was a game where Matthew Stafford is out injured. He could be out up to 6 weeks now with a back injury.
Yeah, and that's just disappointing because he was having a great season. He really was, and I'm really surprised how close this game was. I really did not expect the Lions to keep up with the Cowboys, especially with Jeff Driscoll at quarterback, but they really did. They hung around. The Lions had 121 rushing yards to the Cowboys' 75, but Dak Prescott was really the difference in this game with 444 passing yards and 3 touchdowns. So if the Cowboys can stay on the right track, if they can move the ball running, and if Dak Prescott can limit his mistakes, then I really think that the Cowboys team can make a push to the playoffs and possibly win a couple games.
Yeah, Michael Gallup had 148 yards receiving, Randall Cobb at 115, and Amari Cooper only had 38. So now they're starting to get production from other. They're not just relying on Zeke and Amari, because Elliott only had 45 yards rushing. So Dallas, if they figured things out, they could be a dangerous team.
They really can. They just get in the way of themselves.
Yeah.
They shoot themselves in the foot with penalties and stupid plays, but they're better than the record says they are. And I think they could really make a good push down the stretch.
And now for the Sunday night game, it really wasn't the best game, but the last 4 minutes was the most interesting part because Mitch Trubisky was suddenly pulled from the game.
Definitely. The team put out that it was a hip injury, but he really wasn't playing well all game. You could say that he has a hip injury. Maybe he does. I don't know. I'm not a part of the team, but it's really suspicious. Just because he wasn't playing so well, they put Chase Daniels in. Mitchell Trubisky and his head coach had a long talk on the sideline. It looked heartfelt, and I don't think Mitchell Trubisky's the quarterback for the Bears' future.
Yeah, I don't think so either because after the game I heard he was in street clothes. He was he was hugging his mom in the tunnel, talked to everyone. Jared Goff came up and gave him a hug. It's like, was that his last game or something? I don't think so. Matt Nagy said that he had I think he said it was a right hip injury, and then the play that he described was a left hip injury. So it didn't match up. So it's like, are they just trying to make up that he had an injury to try to cover things up? Because I don't know. And a reminder, the Bears traded up to draft Mitchell Trubisky ahead of Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson.
And that's one thing that gets a GM fired. He's on the hot seat after everything that's happened, how well the other 2 quarterbacks are playing when it was such a difference in the draft status from where the quarterbacks were. He could get fired at the end of the season, and I wouldn't be surprised if he does.
Well, speaking of Mahomes, he's playing right about now in Mexico City versus the Chargers. I keep wanting to call them San Diego still, but the Los Angeles Chargers and the Kansas City Chiefs. So what's your prediction for this game?
I think the Chiefs will ultimately win. I have 30-24, the Chiefs. I really think they really need this win if they want to stay in contention. The Chargers, they have talent, but they're just so injury prone, and they're another team that gets in the way of themselves. So I think the Chiefs will take this one.
Yeah, I think so too, because the Chiefs' defense has been struggling. But I heard a report. Patrick Mahomes said he's feeling his best since week 1 with his ankle, and was it his ankle or leg or both or
knee, ankle?
Yeah, but if he's feeling 100%, look out.
Definitely.
So yeah, I have the Chiefs here too. I think it's gonna be a high-scoring game. So did you say 30-24?
I did, yes.
I'll go 35-21.
Okay.
But yeah, I think Mahomes is going to go off.
Definitely. It's going to be up there. It's going to be higher scoring just because it's Patrick Mahomes.
So now going to next week. To start things off, we have Houston and Indianapolis. Now this is expected to be a real good game because both teams are 6-4 going for the AFC South. So who do you have here?
I have the Houston Texans winning 24-21. I really think they had a bummer of a game this week against the Ravens. I think they bounced back. just because they have to. They're already a game behind because they lost to the Colts a couple weeks ago, and they need this win if they're going to take the division and not be the 6th seed in the playoffs.
Yeah, and they're home too. And
Yes.
I like the Texans here too. I'm going to say it's a little bit more of a low-scoring game, so I'm going to go 20-17. But I think it's not a must-win for Houston, but it's definitely. I mean, we're getting the home stretch, so it kind of is a must-win. And I have DeAndre Hopkins on fantasy, and he really hasn't been himself as of late. He hasn't had that huge game, so I'm just waiting for him to go off. So I think it's going to be this game.
Definitely. And the Colts have not won a game since T.Y. Hilton's been out.
Oh, wow, I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, besides this week. This week was the first week. He's missed 7 games since he's been a Colt. And before this win, they didn't win a game when he wasn't on the field. So they really miss him. He should be coming back in the next few weeks.
So another game we have next week, Carolina and New Orleans. So who do you like in this one?
I'm actually having the Saints over the, not the Saints, I'm having the Panthers over the Saints, I'm sorry. 32-31. I really think another bounce back game after just a terrible performance against the Falcons. And you really just, they got to have it. They can't afford another loss. The Saints can, and I think the Panthers will take this one.
I think the Saints lost last week to Atlanta, right?
Yes.
I think they're still going to be mad. They're going to ride the momentum from Tampa, and they're just going to keep using that as anger. That they're going to use that anger as fuel for the rest of the season. So I have the Saints here 35-17. Okay. And finally, the Sunday night game. This got flexed. It was supposed to be Seattle and Philadelphia, but it's Green Bay and San Fran. So you have San Fran here?
I do, yes. I think that they're going to beat the Packers. I don't know, in a couple weeks they play the Saints. I'm not so sure about that one, but I think the 49ers will have the upper hand on the Packers.
I'm going to go with the Packers here. They're coming off the bye, and Rodgers is playing great. So I'm going with the Packers, but that should be a great game.
Definitely.
So thanks for coming on. And then next, we will have our hockey segment with Josh. So stay tuned. 2 minutes for that.
I'll be right back.
Hi. You think you're probably sober?
Yeah.
But you're thinking about taking the back roads home, just in case. If you're probably sober, then why would you do that? Good choice.
Probably okay isn't okay. If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend.
That's a full glass of wine. I'll be chatting you later.
There are 16 million children struggling with hunger in America. That's 1 in 5 daughters, sons, neighbors, and classmates who don't know where their next meal is coming from. Yet billions of pounds of good food go to waste every year. It's time we do something about it. Feeding America is a nationwide network of food banks that helps provide meals to millions of kids and families in need. Visit feedingamerica.org to help them feed even more. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
Hamilton was adopted from a rescue in 2008. He really likes to be around people. And as soon as I start to make my breakfast, Hamilton is right there. I get out my mat and I'm doing a downward dog and he's underneath. He's quite the pug about town. He gets invited to a lot of parties. He knows he's a pretty big deal. I mean, look at this little face. How could you not love him?
It's me, Artie. Come see what I collected from the Creative Galaxy in my idea box.
Transform your world.
Will you help me make art?
Before you throw it away,
Hey, I have an idea.
think outside the box.
Go be amazing!
Give your cardboard box another life. Recycle.
Happy to have Josh Schmidt with us to talk about hockey now. Josh, how you doing?
Pretty good. How about you?
Good. So who were the 3 stars of the week since we aired last Monday?
Yeah, so the NHL released their 3 stars of the week this morning. Keith Yandel was the 3rd star. He had 1 goal, 7 assists for 8 points in 3 games played. He's been on fire for Florida. Nathan MacKinnon was the 2nd star. He had 4 goals, 3 assists, and 7 points in 3 games. Another one he's rolling. He's helping those Avalanche try to make the playoffs again this year. And top one, of course, Connor McDavid had 3 goals, 7 assists for 10 points in 3 games. That's outstanding numbers for those Edmonton Oilers up there. They're really rolling up there with McDavid and Draisaitl and all those guys. They've really been putting it together, and the Oilers are looking really strong this year.
McDavid already has 40 points on the season.
And to top that, Draisaitl has 43 in 22 games.
Does he?
Yeah, it's crazy.
So McDavid has 14 goals and 26 assists.
Yeah,
So
he's living
nuts.
He's living up to his hype for sure.
yeah. Who is Draisaitl leading the league in points?
Yep. Yeah, with
So
43.
is it back to back?
Yep, it's
Draisaitl and
Draisaitl and McDavid at the top.
Jeez.
But so to switch gears real quick, we'll go to the Atlantic. The Toronto Maple Leafs took on the Boston Bruins last week. Toronto lost to the Bruins in their usual fashion, 4-2. They're classic rivals. You know, they always give a good game. You always see these two square off in the playoffs. Boston was dominant as always. The Toronto team, though, I mean, they're very shaky. This team should be a lot better. They got guys like John Tavares, William Nylander, Austin Matthews, and new guys like Alex Kerfoot and even Jake Muzzin, who not top talent, but you know he's still that gritty guy that gets pucks in deep and wins the battle in the corners. But I don't know what's going on in Toronto right now. I think they need a coaching change. I think Babcock needs to get out of there. And that's what a lot of Toronto fans I've talked to have been saying, because he's not helping these guys.
Yeah, weren't they supposed to be like one of, if not the best teams this year?
Right, and they can be the best. They're actually below the Sabres in the standings right now. So
They're
and the
9-9
Sabres
and
have
4.
not been doing good either. But I don't know. There needs to be changes in Toronto for sure, because this is not looking good for them.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's still early, but to start the season, you would think that they'd be better than 9-9 and 4.
Right. And in this game, Brad Marchand netted 2 more goals and puts them on 13 goals on the year. And Brad Marchand's actually really coming out. He's kind of coming out of the woodwork. He's usually not a big points guy. He's kind of one of those, they call him the rat for a reason. He's kind of just get in there to make you mad. But he's putting up a lot of points for Boston this year, along with David Pastrnak. But Boston's looking really strong. So they're going to be pretty good this year, I think.
Unfortunately.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah, so Boston's leading the Atlantic, right?
Yep. They're at the top of the Atlantic right now.
One day Buffalo will
Unfortunately.
overcome Boston in all sports.
Yep.
All right, so next game, Toronto again. So
Yep.
another game that they lost.
In the Metro, the New York Islanders took on the Toronto Maple Leafs and beat them 5-4. The Islanders, oh my goodness, this team. Words cannot describe this team. This team is rolling. They are on a 15-game point streak, 9-0-1 in their last 10, with 29 out of 30 possible points in their last 15. They have been winning, despite one overtime loss. They've been winning since October 12th. That is a month of winning.
Over a month.
Over a month, yeah. This is what the Sabres fans saw last year with their 10-game winning streak times 2. It's almost at the point of times 2. They're almost at a 20-game point streak. This Islanders team is doing it without 3 of their top points producers, and they're still on fire. Trotz is really putting that team together out there, and I think that this Islanders team is going to go deep in the playoffs this year. They're going to really get revenge for what happened last year when they got swept by Carolina.
Wait, you say they're without their top 3 point scorers?
Not their top 3, but their 3 of the biggest names on their team. Right? Well, that was last week, so I think one of them came back. Anders Lee, I know, is still out, I believe, and Kuhnhackl is also out. And Kuhnhackl's more of a gritty guy, kind of one of those glue guys that holds the team together, but they're still rolling right along with guys like Barzal and Brassard. So
Derek Brassard?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, they're kind of like a sneaky team, because when you think of New York hockey teams, I think most people think of the Rangers first.
Right.
And then the Islanders.
Yeah, but the Islanders play a very, I guess you could say, boring game, but as you can see, it gets results.
Well, they're 14-3-1, good for 29 points, and Washington's still above them, 15-3-4.
Right.
So
Yeah.
they have 34 points.
They got a lot of work to do. But those 29 points that the Islanders have are the 29 points that they've gotten on this 15-game point streak. They were 0-3 to start the season, and then they
because
went on
that's
a
when
tear.
the season started, pretty much.
Yeah, they've been winning since the beginning of the season, basically.
Wow. All right, so the next game, back to Connor McDavid. This time, he could not pull the Oilers to victory. San Jose is also a team that's been hot as of late. They took this one 6-3.
Yeah, San Jose started out really rough and not looking very good. And this is a pretty decent San Jose team. They have a lot of returners. They didn't lose much in the offseason. And
they got Marleau back.
Yeah, Marleau was the jumpstart of this little points run they've been going on here. They're on a 6-game winning streak now. They're turning their season around, and I think the Sharks are going to kind of pull this one out of the cellar. I mean, they weren't too far gone yet, but I think that they can definitely come back in this season. But the Oilers, despite this loss, they are on fire. Like I said in the beginning of the segment, Draisaitl has 43 points in 22 games. That's 2 points a game. This guy was drafted in 2014. He's only, that's 24 years old, and he's making $8 million a year, scoring 43 points in 22 games. That's ridiculous. I mean, this is like Kucherov numbers that we saw last year. Kucherov had 128 points last year, and Draisaitl's almost halfway there, and it's 22 games into the season. So he's going on his way to an MVP. I really think that Draisaitl, if he keeps on this pace, and if McDavid keeps doing what he's doing, the Oilers are going to be a scary team, and it's going to be good.
All right, last game we're going to talk about that happened this past week, Dallas and Calgary, staying out west. So Dallas took this one 3-1.
Mm-hmm. Dallas is turning their season around as well. They were starting off a little rough like the Sharks are, but they're 8-1-1 in their last 10, and they're on a 3-game win streak. One thing that I noticed is Joe Pavelski. He was a big addition for them in the offseason, and he's picking up points more. I mean, he's only got 5 goals, but Joe Pavelski he was in San Jose his entire career. He gets moved to a new fan base, a new city. But I think that he's really trying to come into his own here in Dallas and trying to get back to his scoring ways and his putting points up. But he's getting up there in age, so it's not like we're not expecting him to keep putting up points like he always did. But it's good to see him starting to fit in more.
And what's the deal with Calgary? Because they had a bad series loss to Colorado in the first round last year after that really strong season.
Well, Calgary's another one of those teams kind of like how we saw with the Sharks when they started and with Toronto, because Calgary have great assets. They have Johnny Gaudreau. They brought in Milan Lucic for some grit. And it's just, I don't know, it's getting to the point where what's going wrong in Calgary is all I can say. Is I think Calgary should be a lot better than they are, but who knows? They still have a whole season to turn it around.
All right, so now for the games happening this week, going back to Boston, so they play the Wild on Saturday. So who do you like in this one?
Definitely Boston. Minnesota has been struggling all season. I mean, me and my podcast, we nicknamed the Minnesota Wild Tire Fires because they're just a dumpster fire of hot garbage. I don't know.
Careful what you say. They're in Buffalo tomorrow night.
Yeah,
so
I'm hoping.
Don't jinx us.
I'm hoping I'm not going to jinx us, but I have Boston over Minnesota here, 4-1. I do think the Wild will get a goal off, but Boston's just too hot. They got Pastrnak, they got Bergeron, they got Marchand, Chara. They got all the weapons. I don't think that Minnesota's going to be able to pull this one out.
Yeah, how old is Chara now?
He's getting up there. He's about 42. He hit his 1500th game a couple weeks ago. So
another ageless wonder.
Chara's getting there, but yeah.
All right, so another top team in the East, the Capitals and the Rangers for the Wednesday night rivalry game, just in 2 nights. So who do you like in this one?
I think Washington in this one. I mean, the Rangers have been hot. They've been quick. They got Panarin, they got Kakko, but I think that Washington, just like Boston, they've got too many weapons. They got always Ovechkin, they got Oshie. John Carlson's been lighting up with assists all over the place. And John Carlson's honestly on his way to a Norris Trophy winner, I think. But, I mean, New York, who knows? They might surprise me, but I think Washington's going to take this one 4-1.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Capitals here 4-2. So, like you said, I think Washington's they're too good this year.
Right.
It's kind of like the 2 years ago when they won the Stanley Cup.
Mm-hmm.
It was 2 years ago, right?
Yeah, well, actually, that's funny because that year they started off a little rough, and then they just came out of nowhere and won the Cup.
Like the Nationals this year.
Right, yeah.
Must be something about Washington.
Yeah.
So, all right, going back to Edmonton now.
Yeah.
Out in the Pacific Division now. So, Oilers and Coyotes, this is on Sunday. Mm-hmm. So, what's your prediction here?
I got the Coyotes winning this one in overtime, 4-3. I think Arizona is looking really good this year. I actually have predicted them to be in the top 3 in their division to make the playoffs. I think that this team has rebuilt for the past however many years now. I mean, Arizona, we always see they struggle, and things are never good in the desert. But I think that they're going to overtake the Oilers here, and that'll be a big win for them because these are two division rivals, and if Arizona can win this, I think they'll really prove something, even if it's in overtime, because, like I said, this Oilers team is very good. But I think Arizona's got the weapons. They got the tools. They got good goaltending. They have decent defending once Hjalmarsson comes back, and they have a pretty quick offense.
Yeah, who are their main players this year? Where are they getting most of their points from?
Well, they got guys like Hjalmarsson that can shut down defensively. They have guys like Lawson Krause that are coming into their own, Clayton Keller. And I just think that, and they have the newly acquired Phil Kessel as well. And Phil Kessel,
Oh, that's right.
he might look old and he might look a little chubby, but Phil Kessel's still pretty quick. And I think he's a good addition for Phoenix Arizona in the offseason. Still go back to those old 2000s days when they were the Phoenix Coyotes.
Yeah. I agree with what you say there, but I'm going to take Edmonton here.
Yeah.
I think just McDavid and Draisaitl are just such a dynamic duo right now.
Right.
I like Edmonton here. I'm going to go 4-3, but Edmonton.
In regulation?
Yeah.
Or in overtime?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So just flip-flop the scores.
Yeah.
And then finally, St. Louis and Tampa. You like the Blues here?
Yeah, this is actually a Stanley Cup final matchup. I think that St. Louis is going to keep going at the Lightning here. Tampa, they're looking pretty weak this year for some reason. I don't know if it's that President's Trophy hangover.
Not against Buffalo, though.
Well, yeah. I don't know if it's that President's Trophy hangover, but they're not doing so hot. And St. Louis, though, they're cooking. They're moving along real nice, and they didn't lose many people out in the offseason. They made a pretty sketchy trade a couple weeks ago. They had traded Jacob De La Rose they traded Robbie Fabry to the Detroit Red Wings for Jacob De La Rose, and it was a very lopsided trade in Detroit's favor, not in St. Louis' favor. But I have St. Louis here taking them in 3-2 in a shootout.
Yeah, I'm going to go with that too. I can see St. Louis 3-2. I don't know about a shootout, but I like the Blues here. They're 12-4-5 on the year, so they're picking up right where they left off last year. And like you said, Tampa's been struggling, but of course they didn't struggle against the Sabres.
Right, I wish
Sweden,
they did.
But yeah, so I'll take the Blues here. And real quick, Sabres are home tomorrow night against Minnesota. Tickets are $10.50. So
Yep.
if you want to go,
Two of the
now's
worst
your
teams
chance.
in the league.
Hey, Sabres.
They're pretty bad.
right.
I will admit it. They're doing pretty bad, but hopefully they bounce back.
Yeah, so anyways, thanks for coming on. And Meyer is going to come on to talk about the NBA in a couple minutes.
I'll be right back.
Hi. You think you're probably sober?
Yeah.
But you're thinking about taking the back roads home, just in case. If you're probably sober, then why would you do that?
Good choice.
Probably okay isn't okay. If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend.
That's a full glass of wine. I'll be chatting you later.
There are 16 million children struggling with hunger in America. That's 1 in 5 daughters, sons, neighbors, and classmates who don't know where their next meal is coming from. Yet billions of pounds of good food go to waste every year. It's time we do something about it. Feeding America is a nationwide network of food banks that helps provide meals to millions of kids and families in need. Visit feedingamerica.org to help them feed even more. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
Hamilton was adopted from a rescue in 2008. He really likes to be around people. And as soon as I start to make my breakfast, Hamilton is right there. I get out my mat and I'm doing a downward dog and he's underneath. He's quite the pug about town. He gets invited to a lot of parties. He knows he's a pretty big deal. I mean, look at this little face. How could you not love him?
It's me, Artie. Come see what I collected from the Creative Galaxy in my idea box.
Transform your world.
Will you help me make art?
Before you throw it away,
Hey, I have an idea.
think outside the box.
Go be amazing!
Give your cardboard box another life. Recycle.
And Meyer Mikulski joins us now for the NBA portion of our show. Meyer, what's going on in the basketball world?
So last week, the first matchup we want to highlight was the matchup between the Lakers and the Phoenix Suns. The Lakers defeated the Suns 123-115. The Lakers' main contributors were Kyle Kuzma, Anthony Davis, and LeBron James. Kuzma scored 23 points on 9 of 16 shooting with 4 rebounds. Davis scored 24 points on 9 of 17 shooting with 12 rebounds, 4 assists. LeBron had one of his more passive games with 19 points on 8 of 18 shooting, but had 7 rebounds and 11 assists. As for Phoenix, they were led by Devin Booker, Ricky Rubio, and Aaron Baines. Booker scored 21 points on 9 of 18 shooting with 3 rebounds and 9 assists. Rubio scored 21 points on 8 of 17 shooting with 4 rebounds and 10 assists. And Aaron Baines scored 20 points on 6 of 10 shooting with 6 rebounds and 3 assists.
So I think the storyline here is, are the Suns for real?
Yes.
Yes, they have lost, but what's their record now? Because last I checked, they were one of the top teams in the West.
I can't remember their record offhand, but I know they're 5th in the West right now.
Yeah, they're having a real nice year, and that's after losing DeAndre Ayton.
Yes, he got suspended 25 games, for those of you that don't know.
It was
for a drug.
Yeah, that's right, yeah, okay. So they lose him, but they still have Ricky Rubio, who they signed, Devin Booker, who's been there for is this 4th or 5th year, right?
This would be his 5th season now. He drafted in 2015.
So 5th season for him. So the Suns are really going to rely on him.
Yeah.
He needs a breakout year, I think, because this is a year for Devin Booker. He's had solid years in his first 4 years, but the Suns have been so bad. Now they have solid players around him. We'll see how good of a player Booker really is to see if he can elevate this team from, 20 or 30 games to maybe 30 or 40. Because I don't think they're not good enough to win 45 or 50. But I think if they can win at least 30, 35, maybe even 40, and finish maybe not even a wild card, but just 9, 10, 11 instead of in the bottom, I think that's a big improvement for them.
Yeah. The way I see it, Booker's still doing him, but the reason why they're in the position they're in right now is because of players like Ricky Rubio, Aaron Baines, and Kelly Oubre stepping up to the plate.
Yeah, Aaron Baines, I saw, isn't he leading the All-Star voting or something? Not leading, but he's one of the top vote getters.
I didn't even know All-Star voting started yet, but.
Or maybe I was thinking of someone else or something else, but I don't know. I saw something with Aaron Baines.
But his stats have improved a lot, though, from where it was in Boston.
Yeah. All right, so the next game, Houston and Los Angeles. This is the Clippers. So the Rockets took this one 102-93. So what did you see in this game?
So Harden, he went off, man. He scored 47 points on 12 of 26 shooting with 6 rebounds, 7 assists. And Westbrook only scored 17 points and only had 2 rebounds and 2 assists, which is rare for Westbrook. And if you want to know why Westbrook lost all his rebounds, look no further than his teammate Clint Capella, who scored 12 points but had 20 rebounds and 2 blocks. As for the Clippers, in a losing effort, Kawhi Leonard scored 26 points on 10 of 24 field goals with 12 rebounds, 7 assists. Sweet Lou scored 20 points on 8 of 22 field goals with 7 rebounds, 4 assists. And JaMychal Green scored 14 points on 5 of 11 field goals with 14 rebounds.
Yeah, you can see in the highlights there. I mean, James Harden is just unstoppable. He's pulling up from 10 feet behind the three-point line.
Yeah.
So.
And he practices that stuff. It's not like he's just spontaneously doing that stuff in the game. He works on it in the off season, and it's showing right now.
Yeah, and was that? Yeah, that was the game where Austin Rivers.
Oh yeah.
Austin Rivers tried teeing up his dad. He was telling the refs, "Give him a tee," because Doc Rivers obviously is his dad, and he was coaching the Clippers in Houston. So
things will definitely get awkward at the Thanksgiving table.
Yeah, that was definitely funny because that's definitely not something you see every day.
Yep.
And then the last game that we want to talk about, the Knicks and Dallas. Now, this was key because, yes, the Knicks did get their 3rd win of the year, but it was KP's return to the Garden, and he got a ton of boo birds. I was surprised because, I'm a Knicks fan, and I wasn't expecting that many boos for Porzingis?
Honestly, I kind of was because he didn't really do anything that special with the Knicks other than get his stats. And as for the Knicks, they were led by Marcus Morris, Julius Randle, and Mitchell Robinson. Marcus Morris scored 20 points on 7 of 19 shooting with 5 rebounds and a clutch basket. Julius Randle scored 17 points on 8 of 18 field goals with 10 rebounds and 3 assists. And Mitchell Robinson scored 16 points on 7 of 8 field goals with 8 rebounds and just 1 block. As for the Mavericks, Luka Doncic went off for 33 points on 10 of 23 field goals with 10 rebounds and 11 assists, would put him at a triple-double. Kristaps Porzingis, in his return, scored 20 points on 7 of 17 field goals with 11 rebounds and 3 blocks. And former Knick, Tim Hardaway Jr., scored 12 points on 4 of 10 field goals with 4 rebounds.
This is a real solid game from the Knicks all around because it's kind of weird, but the Knicks have a ton of forwards now.
Yes.
They really built up their front court because, well, obviously they lost Porzingis to the Mavericks, but now they have Marcus Morris, who's supposedly a forward, but he's been playing more like a guard lately.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they have Mitchell Robinson, Julius Randle, Taj Gibson, Bobby
Yes.
Portis.
Kevin Knox.
Kevin Knox, yeah, and he was supposed to be a power forward, right? And they're kind of been playing him at the 3
I
position.
mean, he's mainly a 3.
But wasn't he a 4 in college, though?
He played some 4, but I mean, his position is basketball, so it doesn't matter as much as it used to.
But, yeah, I going back to the Porzingis thing, I don't like how the whole thing ended because he had the meeting with the Knicks front office, and they're saying how he didn't really want to be part of the rebuild. He didn't like how things were going. And then the rape allegations that came out, nothing ever happened with that as of now, at least. But I think those two right there, that's why Knicks fans were so boisterous about it.
And I remember how I found out about the trade, too. I was actually in the gym working out, and then I just found out on my phone, boom, Kristaps Porzingis has been traded to the Dallas Mavericks.
Yeah, I couldn't believe that because I thought he was going to be our centerpiece for the future.
I mean, that's what everybody thought, but
yeah,
it came out of nowhere.
So now it looks like R.J. Barrett's a new centerpiece, but he's been looking real good. He's one of the top rookies this year.
Yes. And I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but this was actually the first time Porzingis played a game at the Garden since he tore his ACL against the Bucks.
Yeah, and he must have forgot that too because he started walking in the Knicks locker room after the game, and then he got to half court. He's like, "Oh, I'm a Maverick now," and then he had to turn around and go the other way. All right, so upcoming games and predictions for this week. So starting off tonight, Utah and Minnesota. Who do you like here?
I have Utah winning this one. I don't think Minnesota has an answer for Donovan Mitchell, and I'm not sure if Wiggins is going to play tonight for Minnesota.
I like Utah here too. They've always been solid. I love watching Utah play because I always root for these small market teams, and Utah is just like that classic small market team that they're just a solid team. Donovan Mitchell. Now they have Mike Conley, Joe Ingles out of nowhere, Rudy Gobert,
Bojan Bogdanovic.
Yeah, Bogdanovic. Now what a great signing that was. So I like Utah here too. But as for Minnesota, Karl Anthony Towns is Karl Anthony Towns, so he's having another great year. But Wiggins is really coming out of his shell this year.
He went from averaging 18 points to averaging 25 this year. But he's missed the past couple of games because of a death in his family. So we're not sure if he's going to play tonight.
Yes, and obviously it's so early, so his point production could come down. But you like the start that he has had so far.
Yes, he probably heard everything that people have been saying about him through YouTube videos and stuff like that.
And he was part of the Kevin Love trade with Cleveland, right? I bet Cleveland wishes they still had him now. Well, I mean, they still have Kevin Love, but I don't know. It would have been interesting to see if they would still make that trade now, knowing what they now know.
Yeah.
All right, so the next game here, Milwaukee and Portland, a couple more small market teams. And the big thing here, Portland has Carmelo now.
Yes.
So what do you think about that? What do you think about the Carmelo signing, and then what do you think about the game? Do you think that'll factor into it?
So what I think about the Carmelo signing, I think it gives them another option, like to take the pressure off of Damian Lillard and C.J. McCollum, because you never really know what you're gonna get with Rodney Hood. He can be inconsistent, but Melo, he's good for 15 points nowadays. Back then, he could give you like 25, 30 points.
Yeah, and I think he knows that because he knows that he's not what he used to be in Denver or New York. He's not going to give you 25, 30 points a game. I think his role now, he's going to come off the bench and he's going to give you a solid 15 to 20 minutes and put up a solid 10 to 15 points. He's going to be that third option behind Lillard and McCollum. And they have Hassan Whiteside too.
Yes.
So Portland they're going to be real good this year because they're another team that always just turns it on after like the first 20 or so games.
Yeah, and Nurkic hasn't even returned yet.
Yeah. When's he supposed to return?
Probably like January, February.
Oh, okay. So that's a real solid. That might be one of the best starting fives in the league. Yeah. Lillard, McCollum, Anthony, Nurkic, and Whiteside. So Portland's definitely a team to watch here. All right, Denver and Boston.
Oh, we didn't do the prediction for.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So who do you like?
So I like Portland over Milwaukee, despite the fact that Portland is off to a slow start.
Wait, say it again. You like who?
I like Portland over Milwaukee.
Okay, yeah. I like. Well, when's Carmelo supposed to play?
Well, we don't know if he's actually going to play yet.
Okay. Well,
they haven't confirmed it yet.
Okay. Well, whether he plays or not, I like Portland here either way.
Same.
I don't know. I think just signing him in general just kind of re-energizes them as a franchise. So it was interesting because Lillard tried recruiting him a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And now they finally got him. So another team out west that's going to be interesting to watch here down the stretch. Well, not even down the stretch. We're not there yet. But when the time comes, Denver. They're expected to have another good year. So they're playing Boston, and Boston's out to a real hot start. So yes. You like Denver here?
Yes, I like Denver over Boston in a close one.
Yeah, I don't know. I got to go with Boston here. They've been playing real tough. Kemba's been looking great. So I'm going to go Boston here. And finally, part 2, Clippers and Rockets. Who do you like here?
I say Clippers. Oh, only under one condition: if PG or Kawhi doesn't take a load management game.
Me too. I like the Clippers here as well. And with that, thanks for coming on, Meyer. We're going to have another 2-minute break. And when we come back, Mac will be on to talk about the AL Awards that were just announced last week.
I'll be right back. Hi. You think you're probably sober?
Yeah.
But you're thinking about taking the back roads home, just in case. If you're probably sober, then why would you do that?
Good choice.
Probably okay isn't okay. If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend.
That's a full glass of wine. I'll be chatting you later.
There are 16 million children struggling with hunger in America. That's 1 in 5 daughters, sons, neighbors, and classmates who don't know where their next meal is coming from. Yet billions of pounds of good food go to waste every year. It's time we do something about it. Feeding America is a nationwide network of food banks that helps provide meals to millions of kids and families in need. Visit feedingamerica.org to help them feed even more. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
Hamilton was adopted from a rescue in 2008. He really likes to be around people. And as soon as I start to make my breakfast, Hamilton is right there. I get out my mat and I'm doing a downward dog and he's underneath. He's quite the pug about town. He gets invited to a lot of parties. He knows he's a pretty big deal. I mean, look at this little face. How could you not love him?
It's me, Artie. Come see what I collected from the Creative Galaxy in my idea box.
Transform your world.
Will you help me make art?
Before you throw it away,
Hey, I have an idea.
think outside the box.
Go be amazing!
Give your cardboard box another life. Recycle.
Time now for the MLB segment, and this week we're just going to focus on the AL awards because there's a lot to unpack here, and then the next time we air, we will do the NL. But, well, first of all, happy to have Mac with us.
Yeah,
back
thanks
again.
for having me on. Been a while.
Yeah. So all the awards are in. Well, all of the main awards. So what are your initial thoughts here?
I think that this award ballot was a lot of awards that we expected. I think there was a few that were a little bit unexpected, but I think for the most part, the people that you thought were going to win won the awards.
Yeah, so I'll just read all of the MVPs and then the finalists too. So the AL MVP went to Mike Trout, and the finalists were Bregman and Marcus Semien from the A's.
Well, let's talk about the MVP first. Let's go.
Okay, yeah,
now.
yeah, we'll just. Yeah.
So Mike Trout won despite missing about the last 3 to 4 weeks of the season with an injury. I think that it's completely deserved. Mike Trout continues to be the best player in all of baseball. He's criminally underrated, I feel. I feel like, more people should know who Mike Trout is, seeing he should be the LeBron of baseball, but I feel like he gets a little bit disrespected in that aspect, seeing as he might be one of the best baseball players of all time. He had another phenomenal year, put up monster stats. 8.3 WAR season, which is not his highest number. He's had some 10 WAR seasons, but it's up there. And his main competition, I feel like, was Alex Bregman, who I felt didn't get the award, even though his team ended up going into the playoffs, making it pretty deep. But what do you think about Bregman this season?
I kind of thought it was going to go to Bregman too, so I was kind of surprised that Trout got it because. I don't know. I mean, Trout's won it before, and Bregman's never won it, and he put his team in a position for the World Series. And then Trout missed all those games, but that just shows how they don't really look at the postseason, and they don't
It's
even.
not a postseason award, and it never will be.
And even with the injury, that just shows how dominant Mike Trout was. He finished the year 291 average, 45 home runs, 104 RBIs, and a 438 on base percentage.
Yeah,
so
and
that's another monster here for Mike Trout.
That's
and that was with.
That's what it is with. Sorry, Dan Trout. That's what it is with Mike Trout. It's all about the counting stats. It's all about he just has the highest counting stats every year for his position, for all of baseball. He's going to put up the highest OPS, the highest WAR, and at the end of the day, that's one of the main things they look at during voting.
He had 137 hits, 110 runs scored, 27 doubles, and a 1.083 OPS. So just like every category, it's like Mike Trout can lead every category. And it's amazing because he's not like your typical big DH who's going to put up 50 home runs and 100-something RBIs. He's not like the, David Ortiz's or, like those guys. Even Ortiz's are retired. That was like the stereotypical DH body that I thought of.
Yep.
But Trout just gets it done.
Year after year, this is his third MVP now, and I don't see him slowing down. I think Mike Trout is, 29, 30 years old now? 28 years old, so I don't see him slowing down anytime soon. He could have more MVPs coming up next year, the year after that.
And he's locked into LA for forever because he signed that massive contract last offseason. So now to the Cy Young. This one did go to an Astro, and it went to Justin Verlander ahead of Garrett Cole. And they were neck and neck. Their numbers were pretty identical, but they gave Verlander the edge here. And I remember when we talked about this about a month ago, I said I would give it to Verlander just because he has a 10-year age difference in over Garrett Cole. So I don't know if that's the reason why they did it, but maybe. But I don't know. What are your thoughts?
This is his third Cy Young now, or it might be his second. No, it's his second Cy Young. Yeah, so second Cy Young in his career. He won the first one when he was with the Detroit Tigers. He is a great pitcher. This was one of the awards that I thought was a little bit strange or maybe a little bit iffy because I feel that Garrett Cole had a really good case for Cy Young too.
Yeah, so Verlander was 21-6, a 2.58 ERA, 300 strikeouts, and a 0.8 WHIP. So obviously, a monster season for him. And then Garrett Cole, like we said, his numbers were pretty identical too. He had what, like 325 strikeouts or no?
I think Garrett Cole. I think they both had 300 strikeouts.
Yeah,
if I'm not
I know he's over
mistaken.
300.
Yeah.
I'll have to double check that.
Yeah,
but
Verlander with 300 on the dot. Garrett Cole with 326.
that's what 326.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know because, like I said, I don't know if it was the age factor or what, but Verlander took it home.
Yep. And I think maybe one of the things that factored in was the record, but the record isn't that much more impressive. Verlander with a 21-6 record and Cole with a 20-5 record. So a 1-game difference there, 2-game difference. I don't really think that mattered that much. This is kind of a confusing one for me because strikeouts matter a lot. Another thing that matters is innings pitched. And the difference for innings pitched I don't think was very large between those two. So 223 for Verlander and 212 for Garrett Cole. So again, like in the NL pitching race, DeGrom had more pitches or innings thrown than Hyunjin Ryu. In this case, Verlander had more pitches thrown than Garrett Cole, so they must have valued that more for the race.
Yeah, it was neck and neck because they're both two of the top pitchers in the league and they're on the same team. So sticking with the Astros, they had another player win an award. Yordan Alvarez took home the AL Rookie of the Year.
Yep.
And that was over. I mean, that was kind of. I think it was unanimous because it was Brandon Lau and John Means from Baltimore.
Yeah. So. Baltimore's got a decent farm system now. Hopefully, maybe they'll get out of the gutter.
Yeah.
Jordan Alvarez is a crazy story because he didn't come into the league until halfway through the year. Came in as the designated hitter and produced all the way up into the postseason and then stopped producing. But that's a different story. It's not a postseason award. It's a regular season award, and I definitely think he deserved it for that.
Oh, for sure. I mean, he came up, right, like early July, I think, right?
Yep.
Or end of June.
It was around the end of summer.
Yeah.
Midsummer, end of summer.
So in those games, 313 average, 27 home runs, 78 RBIs, and a 412 on base percentage.
Mm-hmm.
So those are crazy numbers because those are numbers that you would typically see from a whole season.
Yeah. And he came right in and produced his first season in the league.
87 games.
Yep.
So, yeah, great year for Yordan Alvarez. Not so great of a postseason.
No. He dried up. His bat dried up in the postseason. He wasn't able to get many hits. But during the regular season, he really did produce. 27 home runs for half a season is ridiculous. He kind of leaves you thinking, what could this guy have done if he had a whole season under his bat?
And real quick before we do the Manager of the Year, what do you think about all these allegations over the Astros for cheating and using cameras and stealing signs?
So that's the big story in the MLB right now is the Astros getting caught for cheating during the 2017 season. This is a pretty ridiculous story. Yeah, and there's been signs of them cheating this year. This is a pretty big story, and I think it really does have the chance to work as like an avalanche effect and really draw in some other show some lights on some other teams that have been cheating too. I know there's some allegations against Boston using Apple Watches or something like that to steal signs. So for people that don't know, stealing signs is the act of watching what the catcher's signal is to his pitcher and then having, say, for example, you could have a man on second looking at the catcher and he could grab the signs. So and then relay them back to his batter to tell him whether or not to swing on that pitch. So what the Astros were doing, it's crazy. It's like a spy movie. They were watching on a camera in center field, looking for the catchers to throw up the signs, and then they were, if it was a changeup, a guy in the dugout would hit a garbage can and make a loud banging noise. And you can see there's videos on YouTube. Credit to John Boy Media. He makes really good baseball videos. He has videos of you can hear every time there's a bang during the 2007 postseason and the regular season, every time that there's a bang, you can hear a changeup or you can see the changeup is thrown right after. So
and
they really had it down.
It was Danny Farquhar with the White Sox, I think, at the time, where he stepped off the mound because he could hear the banging and they were picking up his changeup. And they were like, he was like, okay, what's going on? Because they should not be hitting these pitches. I'm throwing good changeups and they're hitting them. And actually, John Boy, he came out with a couple videos and pictures where it's like right behind the dugout. There's like a little peephole and they have a laptop set up in there and it's just crazy. Real quick, Rocco Baldelli took home Manager of the Year. The Twins went from 78 wins to 101. So I'm a Yankees fan. Boone had a great year. The Yankees had a great year. They endured all those injuries, but I think Baldelli deserved this. What do you think?
Yeah, totally. I mean, the Twins were like the major success story of this year, so I really think that they deserve to take that one home, even if they're, again, it's not a postseason award, and you can tell by the Twins winning.
Yeah, and the Yanks increased their wins just by a couple games. The Twins increased by like 23. So.
Yep.
So we will not air next week because we are off for Thanksgiving break, but we'll be back the following week. Mac and I will talk about the NL side of the awards here, and then we'll get you caught up with the rest of the NFL and the NHL and the NBA. So with that, thanks for watching. Have a good Thanksgiving, and we will be back in 2 weeks.